welcome everybody. Mil-Spec Ops Monkey. It's about 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time here, coming to you from the great state of Texas on 5/25/21. And so, without further ado, we are wheels up. Let's get over here to our map and take a look at what we've got going on here in the U.S. Now, we are tracking an interesting aircraft currently, if I can get this screen to cooperate, over actually Georgia, which is kind of a cool. Now, we saw this airplane yesterday. And you can see my servers are acting up. So with this solar windstorm that we have going, hopefully I'll be able to maintain most of this throughout the day. But this little bird right here is one of interest. Now, it was up just south of Macon, operating. Looks like it came out of Warner Robins. But if you get some eyes on it, it's kind of an interesting plane. Haven't seen this one before. Now, we spotted it yesterday. Actually, one of the monkeys spotted it, and so they had passed it on to me. But you see this doghouse down the side here. Now, those look like they're going to be PT-6A engines, which are kind of common for the de Havilland. That's a high wing. Those are de-ice boots on the front, those black things there, and on the front of the leading edges. That's just they inflate and during ice situations, so they basically will break away any ice that gets on the wing. These things were having a problem when they first came out, ottering into the ground because the flight surfaces would get caught up with ice, and down they would go. So these are de-ice boots. And anyway, that said, this is kind of a different platform. Now, we looked it up, and what they were talking about was that this aircraft was made to spot marine traffic out in the Gulf when they were doing, or out in the Atlantic when they were doing space operations. But man, that's an awful lot of money to spend to do something that other programs and platforms will actually do for you. And so that's what a way to waste money. But I'm just not buying it. So this is probably another one of the, just add it to the quiver in terms of our fleet and their ability to basically spy on the U.S. citizens. So. But that's one that is up, that's caught our interest, and it's headed southbound right now. Now, if that was headed northbound and it was over the Atlanta area, and we have some active audit stuff starting to take place, then I'd be really, really suspicious. Wouldn't be surprised, but that would definitely be suspicious. But it looks like last count we had about 320 aircraft up over the U.S. and a lot of heavy. It looks like we got most of our. You see that little string of aircraft here in the center and over the panhandle, which is a lot of activity. Now, we've got a lot of helo activity up here on the West Coast. We'll get into that here in a minute. And it looks like the same, a lot of helo activity, at least from here, over the DC and Baltimore area. Okay, so let's get over here and take a look at Flashbang's schedule for the day. Now, it looks like he is actually rolling out, headed home at about 5:55 p.m. this afternoon. He's in the office today, starting again, and this guy is a crack of dawn guy. Now, starts off in the Oval Office at 10:15, and of course, because he's headed home, that looks to be wrap up around 9:05. But he'll be in bed long before then, so probably about 7:30, I would imagine he's already lights out. So, but even though it says at 8:10 p.m., he departs Wilmington, Delaware, en route to the White House. So he's actually coming back today. So go figure. So 6:50, looks like he departs for the final gathering, and then departs where he is there. Departs back to the White House at 8:10, and then arrives at 9:10. So he'll get a good nap in between 6:50 and 9:05 by the time he gets here. 100%. So this guy is definitely an overachiever. Don't know why he's headed up to Delaware. Don't really care, but that's where he's headed. Just for anybody that may care. But all right, so he is leaving Senior Center this afternoon. We've got one of our flights here landed an hour and 41 minutes ago, and you guys can see this thing's just running some of the normal patterns for security. I looked up N22 PP, and it hasn't flown in a couple days, so it's not one that is active. So if we see anything at all headed from the Brown Zone Senior Living Center up to Delaware, it'll be this probably later on this afternoon. Okay. All right, now let's get over here real fast before we get into TFRs. let's see what we've got. Active volcanoes. Now, anytime you get that increased solar cycle like we're seeing right now, we typically start to see an uptick in earthquakes and volcanic activity. And so I would expect within, this week, we'll see some new volcanoes come alive. Looks like Ducono is popped back onto our map. As you can see, that is, looks like it's got some active ash warnings. I have to get all the way in here, but those are actually going to be your ash warnings for that general region. And so that one looks like it's picked back up and started to spew. Now, we did have Cinnabung recently, but that has dropped off. Wouldn't be surprised to see that one come back active. I've got one that I don't even pronounce its name. And then we've got 4 of them here. Now, we've seen up to 6 in this general area, but this is Fuego. That one's been pretty active. And then this Sanjay is another one. And Semakea. And then we've got Nevados de Chilen. So I guess that one's down in Chile. But you can see, man, I wish they would just name, give us some names we can work with, like Big Al, or, keep it simple instead of me having to try to embarrass myself here. But yeah, this is, so this one's spewing pretty good. Typically in the past, it's been going off the shore, but right now it looks like it's headed up across the country. So that's a pretty good little trail. And this one looks like it's blowing down south. Again, typically you don't see airplanes going into those areas. That's why they have the warnings to keep them out of there. Now, we had 2 new ones that just popped up. One of them is in Italy, and that one is Etna. Now, for you guys that don't know your history, this one, and you can see that's a cloud that it actually, when it spewed and it put a cloud out that's floated. That's why that box is not attached. But this one was actually tied, they believe, to when Rome fell. One of the times that it was tied to part of Rome falling, and that was because it actually had released some stuff. And there's another one in Alaska. But it basically cooled the temperature down by 2 degrees Celsius, and it caused calamity. And so they ended up having, crop failures, and then it triggered famine and a bunch of other stuff. So it just goes to show you, it doesn't take much. But that one has gone active, and then we've got one right here in the middle of Africa that looks like it's really spewing now. And so these are ash cloud alerts, and that's just north of Rwanda. And so that one is, I don't know, we'll see what happens, but that's kind of an interesting thing. But as I said, with this increased solar activity, we typically will see a pretty big uptick in some large earthquakes and some volcanic activity. So if we've already got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 active right now, I'm willing to guess we'll be around 10, maybe more come the end of the week if this solar activity does what it usually does. Okay. Now, over to Guantanamo Bay. Actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. Let's go look at TFRs. So these are going to match up. Now, we do have air shows. Those are still ongoing. That's going to be an air show. That's space operations. Security around the Air Force Base down in Warren Robins. Now, this brown zone, we got a little one in here that is also going to be an air show. That's an air show. This is where Flashbang is going. And notice the size of the rings, significantly larger than what we would typically see for any VIP. I don't know why they give him such a wide berth, but it may be due to the amount of traffic. That can't be, because even Trump had, in New York, he had a very small TFR, actually smaller, probably smaller than this one right here. And you can see this one within another. Now, that is not, that's security TFRs. I don't know what's going on there. That's kind of interesting. And then this other one, let me just double check this air show. So you've got a security TFR inside of an air show. So those are 2 overlapped, and there is no telling. Not, they may be related, probably are related if I had to guess, but typically you don't see security tied in with the air shows, or we'd see them in other places. There's definitely something to that. Okay. Again, air show. And as we get out west here, you can see all these green little boxes are flood watches. This is a big rain spewer. And so get out here. That one, let's just double check. I want to say air show. Yeah, air show. This is space ops, I think. Yeah, space operations, Beale Air Force Base, regular. That one right there is going to be a fire. And then I want to say these are also fire related that are down here. Okay. Same with these. These are going to be fire related. This is border related. And then if you get in closer, now what's interesting is the one that we had that was over Midland and over Dallas. You still have this one that's over Dallas, but that's Bush. Okay. But we had a secondary. Looks like the secondaries have gone away. Those were actually tied to the immigration stuff. They didn't want you getting aerial shots, all right? And so that's going to be looks like we've got an air show between just north of San Antonio, between there and Austin. Okay, but yeah, this immigration thing's been kind of interesting. We're going to touch on that in just a minute. Now, these over here, let me just double check. That is going to be an air show. This one, I'm not completely 100%. Let me just bump in on that. This one over here is going to be, so that's a gas leak. Looks like that's tied to pipeline activity. And just, I don't know, but this one is still a search and rescue. Okay, and that one's been there for a while. So, okay. Now, let me get back to where I was headed before. All right, so Guantanamo Bay. Now, this is another interesting one. We've got a secondary aircraft. Now, if you guys remember, and we'll look at this one in a minute, we had a new bird that shows up. These are what I call out of sequence or out of tempo aircraft. Definitely the type that will carry prisoners or bring, HVTs or high value targets to Guantanamo Bay. This is what we're really looking for, this kind of activity. So this one came in. This is going to be in 329MC. We'll look at that one closer in a minute. Okay, same aircraft. Notice it's an E-55P. That's an Embraer. And then so is this one. Different company. Notice the call sign, or actually the owner registered as Phenom 300 LLC. So that is it's a Phenom 300 aircraft. But anytime you see him call something an LLC at the end of the aircraft name, or it'll either go by, like the N631JS LLC, it's because they've stood up a separate P&L, and that's a pretty good indicator that they're working with an agency. They do that because then they have their own structure that stands up the whole P&L structure for that aircraft. So that's kind of why they do that. Kind of keeps the sheet clean. So if something ever happens, they don't get whole company doesn't go down, right? And so if you had that and about 6 other aircraft in a fleet or a whole airline or charter, and you were being sued for maybe human rights violations or something, this kind of keeps it broken away so you don't lose your entire fleet, I guess. That's the way I look at it. But all right, so this one, check this out. This came out of Fort Lauderdale and came in today, 6:17 a.m., arrived just before 8 a.m. So we'll watch the news cycle, see if we've got any new arrests that have taken place. Typically when that happens, we do see some activity in somewhere in somebody's news cycle. They'll print something about somebody being arrested for something. They won't say they went to Guantanamo Bay, but that's typically what we've seen in the past, okay? And so this one came in this morning about 8 a.m. Get a closer look at the bird. You can see it's a beautiful aircraft again, but that's a Phenom 300. There's your tail number, N631GS. So that one will go into our quiver, and we'll start to watch that and see where it goes. This, folks, is how we have found all of our aircraft that we track, all the Phoenix birds, all of the, the Maxwell birds, all of the Kalita, because what they do is they show up at Guantanamo Bay. And then from that point on, we start tracking them and we can see all of their activity. And again, this is how the agency and the DOD and all of the agencies actually get around. Okay. This is their right in their swim lane. They stay off radar. It's a small footprint. They don't have the overhead expense, so they just basically charter these aircraft and use them for whatever they need them to. But when they pop into Guantanamo Bay, that's when you start to get kind of some eyes on it. Now, I wouldn't be surprised to see this bad dude down sometime in Opelika as we get in. We do have it showing up in Phoenix. Just another data point. That was on April 9th. It gets around. Looks like it's been around quite well. I don't see any Yeah, I'm not seeing any Opalakas on here. Nothing standing out other than Guantanamo Bay, that's your big key. But it looks to me came out of Melbourne, Florida, which is right there on the East Coast, just a little bit north of Lauderdale, and that was on the 20th. So a couple of days ago, parked at Lauderdale. So it looks like it was pre-positioned for something that was going on about 5 days in advance, and then somebody probably was brought to Lauderdale that they took over to the spa, and so that happened today. All right, and then it came straight back to Lauderdale, and so we'll see where it goes from there. But again, definitely that is, like, if you had to tick the box on this is what I'm looking for, that's exactly it. So we want to add N631JS to our watch list and our quiver. And as we go through and we do our stuff, we'll just kind of keep an eye on that one to see if it goes into Opalaka and the Spa or XPL or Tercera. Okay, this was the other one, same type of aircraft that bumped in the other day, and that's also on the flight log. And you can see, again, it's a beautiful aircraft. Got some cool lines on it. I mean, it's really just a nicely done high-end aircraft, okay? But look here, on the 20th, Opalaka. So, and then it went down to La Romana, and I don't know where that is. We'll pull this up on the map real fast to see where that may be. Okay, so that's on the outer end of, so you've got Haiti and the Dominican Republic. So that's out here on the far end. Interesting. Okay, so definitely, like I said, another watchbird. The fact that we've got two of those that rolled into the spa this week, that's a bit of an uptick we normally don't see, and so we'll continue to watch those. You got another one right here. That one was the N65LJ, a little Learjet, came out of Tampa. Now I've seen that one before, and it normally has a little a medical cross right beside it because it's typically a medical flight. Okay, now let me get over here to departures real fast. I'm going to make sure that our departure board aligns with all of this. Now you can see this is a plane that's actually United Airlines that has departed the spa, and is actually, that is its flight path, its planned flight path of how they're going to fly up the coast. So that's what that dashed line is. Okay, now let's see if we have any others that have popped in. Now here's one of the things that they're really clever about doing. There are certain things that they will do. So they will not show up on the arrival board, but they'll show up on the departure board. That's the first thing they do, little shenanigans they play. The second thing is they will change the call signs mid-flight. So they'll take off and they'll be flying along, and they'll be about, 100 miles out, and all of a sudden, bing, that flight terminates, new flight pops online. Good luck. You got to really hunt to find it. And if you don't know the N number associated with it, it's very difficult to find that aircraft. And why they do that, it's just to throw you off. And the last thing they do is basically wipe the board clean. And that's where they just come in and the thing never happened. Okay, it just disappears. And so you have real hard time finding any proof that it was ever even there. All right, but those are typical operator contractor type flights, bringing somebody in. You usually get, like for the Maxwell bird, that was probably an air marshal that flew them in. And so anyway, let's see here. Let's go over to, so we're looking at that one. Let's get into XPL Honduras and see if we've got any new activity going on over at that side. Looks like it's been quiet. Nothing on either board. All right, boards look clear, but let's dig in a little and see. Now, this was last Thursday. Looks like our last flight. Now, that is going to be a little Bell helicopter. The one out of Houston Hobby, that's going to be troops. All right, and we talked about that in the last SITREP, so we won't go back over that again. Now, let me get over here to departures and see if we've got anything. And it looks like the same stuff, basically inbound, outbound, with the exception of a couple helicopters that popped in. And so let's pull up Camp Justice, because I have not looked at that one at Diego Garcia in a little while. And let's see if we've got any new stuff on the boards. Yeah, the boards are empty. So Diego Garcia or Camp Justice has been very, very quiet as of, like in the last several weeks. So, I mean, nothing really shows on the boards at all. So I haven't really been covering that one in the show. That's why, but I just thought I'd throw that up there real fast. Okay. Now, let's take a look. We looked at TFRs. We looked at Flashbang's schedule. We've looked at the prison locations. Now let's talk immigration. Okay. This is kind of an interesting thing. And if you guys see any of these flights going into your area, your hometown, or your state, you really want to start raising a stink, because I read an article just recently that, matter of fact, came out yesterday. Imagine that timing. That the DOD, or that the agencies, are utilizing flights in the middle of the night or in wee hours of the morning to bring immigrants into the country, into their states, under darkness, right? And they put them on buses, and nobody knows they've even arrived, right? And so they brought them in, they disseminate them, and then or process them through, and then that's it. You never see them again. Okay. Now, yesterday, one of the followers that's a Space Monkey over on Patreon reached out to me, because he contacted Greg Abbott's office, and they said, hey, give us some tail numbers, because we're going to go investigate this, because supposedly he didn't know anything about it. I find that hard to believe, but let's give him benefit of the doubt. Now let's see. Now that you've been loaded with the data, let's see what you do with it, right? And so we provided him with the tail numbers, and we're going to look at these here together, just so I can show you guys where they're going. Now, this aircraft right here, XA-BAL, if you remember in the past, we've looked at some other XA aircraft that were suspicious. Matter of fact, one of them went to Guantanamo Bay. Okay. What's interesting about that is a Mexican aircraft that's a Mexican registration. It's not registered in the US, but it's operating. This one is operating in the state of Texas and Arizona. So I don't know how they do that and get away with it without all of the customs constraints, unless it's an agency. All right. Now, the XA tells you that it's registered as a commercial aircraft. XB, I think, is charter, and XC would be, and C is in Charlie, would indicate that it is a military aircraft. So now that I was told by somebody that is from Mexico that tracks aircrafts down there, right? And so, but anyway, if you notice, this thing landed a day ago. It was in Texas, and it went out to Scottsdale, Arizona. Now, this, folks, let's take just a closer look at this aircraft. It is a beautiful G650. I will tell you, that aircraft right there is super high dollar, super luxury. It's most of the G650s are operated or owned by people that are, like, for example, CEOs of Twitter, CEOs of major corporations that are making crazy money. Okay. So when you see that type of aircraft, most of them you can't get any information on. It's hard to track them, because the owners actually go through layers to protect themselves. Okay. So, but they'll go in and they'll basically, it'll be through a trust like Delaware or Utah, right? Where it's a trust that's set up so that their name is protected. And then on top of that, they'll protect their flight data, and somebody will put in submit a request to the FAA and to all the tracking sites that basically say, don't track our flights. Okay. And so, but these are usually, folks that are making a metric ton of money. And again, this is the best Gulfstream even has to offer. All right. It is a super nice aircraft. Now, that said, that would typically, somebody that's making billions a year is going to be flying a plane like that. Okay. So that has gun runner or drug runner all over it. But the fact that it's operating in and out is very suspect. Okay. It's all over the US. And let's get down here and take a look at the flights. But so it was in Carrizo Springs, Texas, went into Lauderdale. That was yesterday. That was the last time it was there. But this thing got picked up actually in Midland, because we had somebody that was actually eyes on, got the tail number, and we've been tracking it ever since. But you can see this thing is flying. It goes in and out of Midland. It goes in out of these other Texas locations, Van Horn. It's operating in this general area, and it has been. If we go look at the flight history associated with it, you can see it's not really rolling in and out of. On occasion, it'll fly into Mexico, but for the most part, it's on our side of the border, and it's doing a lot of activity. You can see it even coming up into Dallas. All right. Now, not saying that's human trafficking or anything like that, because you would think they would probably be hiding it a little better. But the eyes on it said that it was definitely suspicious in what it was doing, and like I said, they were eyes on that one, and they've already given us tail numbers for others as well. Okay, and so that is going to be one that we want to watch. And if we get over here, here's one of your charters that is also doing the same thing. And remember, we were looking just a couple weeks ago at the Atlas Air flight that was going back and forth on a daily basis from El Paso to Kentucky. Okay, and that one is continuing on. It's every day, and they're doing the same thing. And so we had somebody watch the flight when it landed in Kentucky. And if it was a cargo flight, they pull it up on a ramp, and then all the trucks roll up, and they don't do jetway stuff, right? They'll push up a stairwell, and people will depart that way. But this bad dude pulled up to the jetway, and people got off, and it rolled out of El Paso. And so we know they are taking immigrants from El Paso into Kentucky on a daily basis. Okay, that's a lot of people, and it's a big aircraft, right? And so here, in this case, this is N397SW. It's owned and operated by Swift Air, which is that's actually a charter airline company, but it's a little 737 that'll hold a pretty fair amount of people. And so this bad dude is rolling out of Midland, and it's headed to lots of different areas. So in this case, it went from Alexandria, Louisiana, down to San Antonio. Okay, but we watch it. We started actually eyes on it here on Friday, coming into Midland. Midland was an area that they actually had the TFR over for a long time, almost the entire month of April into May, so that anybody couldn't get eyes on in that general area from an aerial perspective. But that was a security TFR, and it had to do with immigration and FEMA. Okay, and so now Midland. Again, you've got something operating. They're coming out of Midland, headed into San Antonio, and then from San Antonio, they fly into Alexandria, Louisiana, back to San Antonio, and then from San Antonio over to Laredo, Texas. Now, these are, if you guys know these locations, sorry, let me back that up because that took me to San Antonio. These are all, especially here, like this is... Now check this one out. That one actually went down to Mexico, which is kind of interesting. But you're talking border towns, man. You start look at Laredo is right on the border. And so these are people that are crossing. They probably let the women and children go one way, and then they took these other folks and brought them back down here, drop them off down in this area. But you get them into El Paso, you get them into here, and then you're getting them up into San Antonio. And they're giving them free rides, it looks like, into the U.S. across various areas. They're taking them to Houston, Dallas, Kentucky, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We've seen them up in Sacramento. So they are just basically pushing and pumping the immigrants in through the country and using aircraft to do it. And so we've caught them red-handed doing it. Okay. Now, that said... these are going to be our loon balloons. And so just dropped one off. I had 3 on here a minute ago. The other one was off of the Seattle area, but this one's off of Hawaii, and this one is up in the Dakotas. Now, these are, if you noticed last week, we had an operation going on, and we had 7 of them all over North Carolina, South Carolina area. And there was a massive bust for human trafficking. And so I think they rescued 150 kids or something. That's what indicated to us that these are actually being utilized as surveillance balloons. They are not internet related. Okay, the internet related stuff ended in January 2021, and since then these things have been repurposed, and the data is now being used, and balloons are being utilized by our agencies to spy on us. Okay, and so we've been watching. I will tell you that it's very interesting. Normally, when you go in and you try to look up these balloons, you'll see them all over the map, right? There's usually quite a few, about at least a dozen, and you see them everywhere, down in the Caribbean, over into Africa, things like that, right? And so, but as soon as the story broke and we started talking about all of them we saw here, they just miraculously went away and disappeared. And so now they're not broadcasting, and we really got to keep our eyes on to see if we can find them. But the 7 that were over this general area have all disappeared. and like 2 days after the report broke. So just remember, they know we're on to them, and they are definitely hiding from us. So, okay. In 411 DE, that is going to be our helo sniffer, and that bad dude is back out in Vegas, and looks like it was doing some legwork down here. Now, they do operate out of Vegas and out of DC. There's actually another aircraft that is associated with this one too. That's a fixed wing that they operate, and that I haven't seen it in a while. And there's also a 412 DE, which is another helo that looks to be in some type of mod because it hasn't been out in a while, so it's probably getting some upgrades. But this thing's out in Vegas. Now, that said, if you guys watched the news yesterday, we had an aircraft actually crash in Vegas at Nellis Air Force Base, and the pilot ottered into the ground and died. But this was actually, you guys may remember hearing about this company, this Draken US. If you don't, let me refresh your memory, okay? Draken US was tied to the French air-to-air missile that they found. You guys may remember this bad dude. They found it in Florida by mistake. They didn't even know it was there, but it goes to a French Mirage aircraft. So the aircraft, that company has already been, it's had some pretty bad press when that thing popped into the picture, because it was, people were kind of wondering what it was there for and why nobody knew this air-to-air missile was even there, okay? Now, this company is well known for actually bringing in foreign aircraft, and then they fly it, and they do dogfights and other training missions with our military so that they get some real-time experience, a real on how that aircraft will actually function and operate. They use them for dogfights and for bomb runs and testing radar and all kinds of different things. So, but that looks to be a Mirage aircraft that actually ottered into the ground. And so it was one of their aircraft. So it looks like the pilot did not make it. Pretty unfortunate. Okay, so we talked about that. We're into Vegas now. So now let's bounce out. And now this is another one of our Swift Airs. Sorry, I meant to pop that over and drag it. But this is immigration related. So we kind of went backwards here for a minute. But I just want to show you guys 149XA. It's another 737-400. You can see border town up to Indiana. Okay, so there if you're in Indiana, you need to call if your governor is I don't know, whether he's red or blue. Somebody needs to start blowing up his phone and letting him know that, hey, we're on to you, dude, or dudette, because we know you're sending stuff in. We've got the flights, we got the tail numbers. What you need is probably just some eyewitnesses on ground that see him actually coming off, and then pretty crazy. But yeah, you can see this helicopter is it was at Houston, went up to Indy, it came back down Indy, down to Brownsville. Now Brownsville is a border town, straight up border town. But this thing has been flying all over the place, and so I think what they're doing is changing hands. And so you'll get them coming out of San Antonio, they'll go over to Midland, and then from Midland they go up here to Gary, Indiana, and then from Gary, they're over into South Bend, Baltimore. They're basically just taking these people, putting them on different flights, and just spreading them throughout the country. And so, but the reason we catch this, and the reason we know this, is because we have somebody at Midland that actually had eyes on it, recorded the tail number. The only thing they didn't do was take a picture and send it to me of the immigrants getting on, but they gave us a verbal report that, hey, you got a sea of immigrants getting off of planes and putting on these off of buses, going onto these aircraft, and then they're shipping them out. They had no idea where the airplane was going from there. They just gave us a heads up of what's going on, and so it's pretty amazing what they're doing. But last I heard, Fox News say there was 61,000 that have been processed into the United States through the flashbang administration. And so there you have it. I bet that number is probably 8x higher than what they're telling us. But just a data point, and so we need to keep that in mind. Remember that you still have the Atlas Air flights that are still rolling in and out of the border town, El Paso up to Kentucky. That's happening on a regular basis as well, every day, every day. And that one is showing up in Kentucky, if I'm not mistaken, at like 2 a.m. So, but these, what we're looking at right now on the board are the Atlas Air flights. This one's coming out of Turkmenistan, so that's probably a little suspect, and seems to be headed westbound. I don't know where it's going to go, but you can see this one came out of Dover and went to JFK. Been over in Ramstein, Germany, a couple times over the last couple weeks. So this thing may go to, let me just look at the map real fast, but it could end up going from there into, it may go to Germany, land at Frankfurt, and then that's more than likely that is going to be some troop activity, if I had to guess. People that are being exfilled out of Afghanistan and that general area, they probably got them to this point and are sending them back. And so that'll probably go to Ramstein in Germany, and then from there it'll come back to the U.S. Okay, now let's get over and just take a quick look at the Ukraine so you guys can see. We've got, again, a little more activity. In the past, we see nothing. It looks like we got a flight that's actually cruising through the airspace. Usually right along this border right here, and in here is a no man's land. I do see a no call sign. That's usually not good. Not for that area. But the reason we didn't have any aircraft is because they had probably activated some ground-to-air missile defense systems, right? And so they were expecting something coming in across the border, and then they would just take it out. It came into the airspace. So that's probably why we weren't seeing it. Now we get down here to the Black Sea, and not seeing too much going on. Let's see here. This is going to be your Lebanon and Turkey. It looks like they've got some new flights coming back in. Now this is all commercial. Now that one, note the dog. Notice the box on the bottom of this, right there. That little dog house. So that's a good indicator. That's a surveillance plane, and that bad dude is up to something. All right. Now here's how we even know further. Again, you wouldn't find that on the military flight. Okay, you're going to find that on the commercial side, because this is a commercial aircraft, a registered aircraft. Now notice the registration on it. That's an N number. And so the N3104 Lima, that right there is a U.S. registered airplane. And there you go, right there, country registration, United States. And so that's a spy bird, okay? And they are up at 11,562, and they are flying over, that is over Lebanon. Now remember, on that border, in that general area was where we had that strike just in the last couple weeks, where they were launching missiles into Israel from the Lebanese border. Now, if you, for those that follow their Bible, understand the Bible, this was one of the covenants, the covenant of pieces, I think it was, when Abraham actually cut the animals in half and laid them on both sides, and then God actually walked between the animals and established a covenant with Abraham. That is where that happened. That was I think of the Shabbat farms or something in that general area. So, little biblical history for you, but that is right there. What we're watching is some surveillance, definitely flying around, capturing all kinds of stuff. Like I said, man in the middle. So that is definitely going to be, that aircraft's got Stingray and Dirtbox technology on it, 100%. Okay, so that is that. And let's get over to our military side, and then we'll work our way back over to the U.S. and look at a little closer in terms of what's up. Now, I do have persistence on over Europe and this area, because we're kind of getting into the night or into the evening. It's probably anywhere from about 8 in the UK, 8:10 to probably maybe close to midnight out here. Maybe, not totally sure. May only be a couple hours difference. Don't know, but anyway, but this is what we've got going on now. If you look, you've got a B-52 currently flying in. That bad dude is probably, let me see where that thing came out of. Looks not showing too much. Flying over the area right now, but he is sitting at 27,000 feet at about 488 knots. So he's clicking in cruise mode. But he's currently over the UAE and that area, this cutter over here. And so then we got this Glex flight, which is probably, it's showing as NA, but if I had to guess, that is probably going to be one of your Black Wolf birds, if I had to guess. All right. Then we got some air refuelers, so that means we got some fighters up, and it looks like you've got a B-52 up in the general area. So we're showing a little command presence over there. That's an uptick from before. And that's a little Saudi Arabian bird. It looks like Riyadh. That's kind of like your little Learjet thing. It's a Cessna Citation, which is a little that thing scoots, man. Like I said, that's a pretty responsive aircraft. Very nice, high end. Like I think it responds like a fighter. So okay, C-17. That's Moose 78. We see that one operating in that general area quite a bit. That's up here in Kuwait City. And then another C-17, Moose 76, and then that one on the ground. So 79, 76, and 78. So we've got 3 C-17s look to be actively flying in that Kuwaiti area. And then this one that's actually, I don't know what that one is up to. It looks like he just flew out and came back. So no telling. Okay, let's get over here to Israel. We'll take a quick look at that. Looks like you've got a UK C-17 that is flying in Jordan. Looks like it went out over the water there a little while. And then that's an Italian air refueler. And another air refueler up here. Well, that probably is due to persistence mode. It just jumps around a little bit from time to time. That's going to be a Turkish A400. That's just a cargo bird. It's kind of like a C-130. And then that is like to be a 737-800 assigned to Poland. And then as we get up in here, let's see if we've got anything really popping. Air refuelers. A lot of cargo, a lot of air refuelers. These are all, get into Germany and look at these aircraft. These are all EN-48s. It's an M18 W3, like lots of different types of helos. So those are EN-40, both of those. Let's see if they give us a picture. See, that's kind of a weird looking, like the Audis of helos. Yeah, kind of a strange looking helicopter, but a little Eurofighter there. And actually, what is Gripen? That's not even a Eurofighter. That's a Saab Gripen or Gripen. Pretty cool. That's actually a pretty cool aircraft, but I thought it was a Eurofighter for a second. I do love how these icons are all, they kind of have generated some pretty cool icons that set them apart. And that says that's an H-53. That's a German military H-53. And let's get over to the UK and see if we got anything that looks suspicious. See, over here in Ireland, got some helo activity, and up here near Belfast, some more helo. And then we've got a little Chinook, a couple 737s, and then you've got our typical H-64, which those are Apache gunships. And that's what that looks like. So pretty cool. And probably one of my favorite helicopters right there. Those things are just so quiet and lethal. Now that's your Eurofighters right there. All signs. And okay, now let me get us back over to the U.S. Let's take a look at what's going on here stateside. Now I did see that we had looked like the Air Force One bird was up, not listed as Air Force One, as well as some of the others. Saw some 757 activity. So we'll get a closer look into DC. Really, you can see kind of some pockets, people hanging out here. We've got something going on down here in Southern California, San Diego. That is a lot of air traffic. And so let's start out up here in the Seattle area. Looks like we got our usual P3s that are up in the general area. A little fighter activity, which we always see that up there. A couple H-60s. And then we've got our refuelers that seem to be doing some work. C-17's coming in. I don't know where that one's coming from. Let's back it up a little bit. Looks like it was out of the panhandle of Florida. If I looked at that correctly. Yeah, and actually Georgia, sorry. A little north of there. So that looks like it came out of Warner Robins area down south of Macon. And all right. see. Yeah, these this is a pretty good indicator when you got these tankers. There are a lot of tankers up. That's another tanker, that we typically get. You're having a lot of fighters up when you have a lot of tankers going. All right, we get down here to Southern California. This one's really kind of busy out here. Looks like that's a 2-ship C-130s, and they look like they're either searching for something, or they are doing some exercises. But they are right on top. Let me get in a little closer because that looks like it's 3. Yeah, we got 3 C-130s flying, and amazing. You get in too close and they just disappear. They're moving 4, right? So that's a shadow underneath that one. So that tells you got a double. And so you got a handful. There may be 4 or 5 of them out there. We're just not getting them because their signals are getting kind of choppy. But you can see them. So, and they're all flying, sticking together in this little route, which kind of makes you wonder if they're not doing some little bit of water jump activity or if they're not searching for something. They're at 10,000 feet. So, no telling. But probably some of your high-speed dudes out here doing some exercises, if I had to guess. But the fact that they are all just flying in formation, that's pretty cool. All right, let me back over here. I'm going to go to the left because I saw some stuff happening out here, and then we'll come back. I see another 2-ship, but I saw Hawaii look like they had some activity going on. So we'll get out here, Hawaii, and see what we've got. Now, those look to be, that's going to be a Navy 737, so that's a whitetail. That's probably like a base commander or something headed back to CONUS, to the back, probably headed to San Diego if I had to guess. And then that's an air refueler. And then this little one right here looks to be a little Gulfstream Ghost 53. Yeah, so that's a cool looking bird. So check that one out. Looks a lot like our, so that's a Marine Corps, right? And man, that's a good looking bird. That's nice. Little winglets and stuff on it. That looks like it's rolling out of Hawaii, headed eastbound as well. A little Ghost 53. So looks very similar to our aircraft that they use for the Phoenix Airs. Okay, let me see. Now I thought I saw a couple more 2-ships in here. That's a 2-ship right here, C-130, and that's a little CJ-27. That's a thing that acts a lot like a C-130. Has the same kind of look and characteristics, but 2 less engines. All right, that's going to be that's a, what is that? That's a Dolphin, so that's going to be your Coast Guard probably, more than likely. Got some fighters up out here, another tanker. All right, let's head out west. But there's your little 2-ship. You can see what they're doing coming out. And come on now. Oh yeah, it looked like they all just took out. That one's on ground right there. Like those 2 just took off back to back, and they're headed eastbound. Okay. Now let's get over. We'll just slow into Phoenix. We're gonna step in and actually look closer at Phoenix and talk a little bit about that. These are little BE-40s. Look like you got a little flying together. They look to be flying together, coming out of Tucson area, headed eastbound, back to back. Nothing really happened over Phoenix from a military perspective. All right. C-130 doing a little border work. These are all, for the most part, trainers. Kind of hard to get into the mix of that. That looks to be a C-130 that came from the East Coast. We get up here. That's going to be Oklahoma City, and those are all that's all just a sea of trainers. Then we get north of there, and then things start to get interesting. So that's going to be Night Watch, who looks to have come out of, that's out there near Laredo, or Abilene, near West Texas. So there's Abilene there, but that's kind of cool. We've seen him come in and out of there before, back when Trump was actually still president. And so, and then of course we have some of these others. Those are air refuelers, but they're just stacked. Like there's just so many of them. You can see them just flying in almost a formation, but that is a lot. That's 4 air refuelers. So they're not refueling these trainers because these guys don't have air refueling capability. But the fact that they're up, maybe we got some fighter activity going on out there, or some training. And so another B350, another air refueler. So let's get over here, really focus in on DC area, and we're gonna see what we've got going on. Now, a minute ago, like I said, we did have so that's gonna be a big C5. That's one of your heavies. C17 got a couple. Those are tanker air refuelers. Another air refueler. So we've got a lot of air refueling activity kind of north of there, and then you got this hot mess of stuff. Now that's gonna be, normally that would be Air Force One, okay, NA, but that's 828,000. And then this one right here is going to be an air refueler, which was looked like it was holding a route here. They could be doing maybe some air refueling stuff with it, maybe not, I don't know. Another air refueler. Both of these guys look to be headed on the same track westbound. And you got a little P8 activity that's coming out of probably Pax River and or Folk, one or the other. But what that one is, not getting anything on it, so I'd have to go look at the hex code to try and figure that one out. But a couple trainers here, and C-130, that's going to be like an AWACS. That's a Navy variant, a little smaller. But that bad dude, I think, lands on carriers. But that's an AWACS, so air traffic control. Think of it that way. BO6, so these are H60 Helos. That one is a Bell Jet Ranger 206. That. Let's see here. Little SAM flight 330. Looks like that's actually landing in DC. Couple H60s. So I'm not looking or not seeing. I was kind of looking for a refueler to be hanging out in this area. It doesn't look like they are. Maybe we just don't see them, but just not seeing it. Now let's get down off of Florida real fast and see what we've got. And get down to Florida. This place was kind of active a little while ago. Had quite a bit. Disregard all of this because that's just clutter. Get into Savannah area. That's P8 coming out of Jacksonville. That's a B703. One of your spy birds. Looks like he's running tracks north of Savannah into a little bit of the Georgia area. Again, we'll be watching for that one. If those guys start operating over this, then you got black hats that are really getting in on the whole audit in Georgia. So hopefully that doesn't happen. All right, hopefully, I don't think they're that obvious. But that little Shark 67, that's gonna be troops. That's usually out of Dias or Arkansas. Yeah, it's coming out of Arkansas, Little Rock. Okay, that, if I had to guess, 26,000 and kind of maintaining, that may end up going into Guantanamo Bay from there. Usually it's going to kick out a little further, but that Shark 67 is a bird that we've seen several times bringing troops into Guantanamo Bay. So that could be what you're seeing there. Okay. All right, let me look at my board, make sure I've covered everything. I think I have. All right, so that's going to be it, folks. So listen, we will be back on Friday with this. Oh, no, I didn't cover everything. I forgot Phoenix. So let's get over to Phoenix real fast. I knew I was forgetting something. So we're going to take a closer, let me back out of this. Again, looks like lots of spying going on there over Lebanon. Let's get over to Phoenix and talk about that a little bit, what we've been seeing, what's been going on. And I get over here. I probably could have just keyed the thing in and have been a lot faster. But all right, so there's our Phoenix right here. And this is going to be Sky Harbor. Now, what we're looking for, and I haven't seen it yet, is basically that PC-12 was doing, the one that was doing the dirt box and the Stingray stuff, flying this general area. Now, the audit supposedly started yesterday, back up. And so, we would expect to see somebody flying in this general area doing some laps. Now, that right there is definitely suspect. Okay, that's kind of an interesting swatch, so we'll have to look closer at that. But that's a little Piper Hmm. All right. What is that? N140RD. Let me go over here. I want to see if we can find some intel on this one. N140RD on FlightAware. See who the owner is, what the plane looks like. So this is going to be your bird. I don't see anything hanging off of it that would indicate. Doesn't mean it doesn't have that technology on it, but it looks like it's operating out of Mesa, Arizona. Registration, it's under Mark Inc. That could be a survey bird doing that. The fact that your audit is going on kind of in this general area right here, and it doesn't have to be on top of it. Like I said, if it's within 20 miles, it's lethal. It's within the range, okay? But it looks like, I mean, it just headed so far north. So if it was doing that in here, I'd be suspect. So maybe not, but that is, those are the kind of things that looks to be more like a survey grid, like he's doing something else. There's your little PC-12. Look at that, folks. Now you got it, real time. That's what you're looking for. So that is Phoenix Police Department, and you are looking live at them fly over the audit. So your audit is right here, and these guys aren't even hiding it anymore. And a man in the middle. So there you have it. So they are up again today. Probably did it yesterday. I didn't catch it yesterday. I looked and I didn't see them. Somebody said they were up one time last week, but that right there is, they're at 10,900 feet. That is an aircraft that has Stingray. We know that for a fact because we actually pulled the records and found the agreement of which they had signed with the company, and so through FOIA request. I tell you what, man, there's people out there that are so good at this stuff, it's not even funny. And so you probably read that over, if I had to guess, you read that on the Gateway Pundit, who's been covering this pretty exclusively. But yeah, it looks like your PC-12 is back up. So guys at the audit, when you see this thing post, know you got eyes in the sky doing the same thing. They're back to their normal routine of gathering your data. And so yeah, that is not even. So if you look at the audit location, I think it's somewhere right in here. Okay. In general, all right. But remember, with that aircraft, you only need to be within 20 miles. That thing's got a 20-mile range. That it's lethal. It becomes man in the middle. Now, if you know where the cell towers are, the cell towers are just scattered throughout here, and so this thing becomes, in essence, a cell tower. And with Stingray, it can actually push data and pull data. And with the dirt box, it has the ability to basically communicate to people, real-time analysts at another location. And so they are basically, as they fly over and grab that, they're sending that data to a team real time who's making live decisions based on that data. So yeah, it looks like they're bugging out now. So we caught them. There we go. Here it is, day 2. Like I said, I didn't see them yesterday. May have been there, but I can tell you they were very spotty last week. I didn't catch them last week. Somebody told me that they flew one time, that they saw them flying one time. I've asked them for a picture of it or to provide it. I mean, I can go back in the Wayback Machine here on playback, and I did not see it. So so if they caught it, that'd be really interesting. If they didn't catch it, the fact that there was no audit and there was no flight, that is super suspect. But yeah, it looks like it's headed back north again. So there you have it, folks. Again, caught red-handed. Looks like the Phoenix Police Department is doing some surveillance over the audit facility location at 2:30 p.m. Central Time on 5/25. So, all right, folks, that's going to be it. You guys, listen, I'll be back on Friday with our SITREP. I'll be bouncing in. Don't forget to check out my Monkey Minute on Wednesdays. And then this weekend coming up, we've got the Watchman Hour that I'll be posting, that we're going to actually talk about the rapture and some of the other events around the rapture, because there's many of them within the Bible that are very similar in nature. And so we'll talk about that. So that's going to be it. You guys be safe. God bless. Monkey out. Check out the latest gear at monkeywerxus.com.